I've got a good news and a bad news. The bad news is that I've got 4 black dudes behind me and their intentions is not looking good. And the good news is that I'm going to teach you how to trade and take a look at the stock market for you, explore all the charts, the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, the Bitcoin. But first we're going to head over to my screen and take a look at what's going on in the world. And the US is sending more troops to the Middle East as things get absolutely crazy. And I'm just like, US, how are you going to help? So I called Mr. Trump and I'm like, Mr. Trump, how are we going to solve this issue? Is there anything that we can do about it? And Mr. Trump is like,
I see this. It's so incredible. Ding, 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 ding. Boom. Okay. Pshin, boom. Star Wars.
Star Wars. And I think, Mr. Trump, what you're really doing is this. Absolutely destroying stuff. Whatever stays in the way, we're just blowing things away. That's the US way of doing it. But let's take a look at what's going on in Israel and Lebanon. So these two guys don't like each other. They're like neighbors, but they're fighting all the time. It's like you're living next to Karen and Karen is always complaining, always throwing tantrums, always doing all kinds of stuff. And these two guys are always blaming each other. And we will take a look at that on this channel. But let's take a look at what's going on back home in the US. So GM, look at this. GM is beginning layoffs, 1,700 workers in Kansas plant. I've been telling you guys the layoffs are coming, the economy is deteriorating, the interest rates are coming down, the Fed funds rate is coming down. It's a whole lot of problems that are about to begin in this economy. And you're like, Cash Booza, what do you know? I'm like, yeah, what do I know? I'm just a dude on the internet, just screaming on top of my lungs, teaching you guys how to trade, making you guys a lot of money, but what do I know? Let's take a look at some other stuff. So this is interesting. The number of S&P 500 stocks outperforming the index, and it's at record highs comparable to the 2000, the 1999. We all know what happened afterwards. It was a dot-com crash and things went. And the US market is at all-time high. Take a look at this. The US versus the developed market, excluding the US. The US is hitting absolutely all-time high. Look at that. Record levels. Smashing the internet bubble, smashing the Nifty 50 bubble, and just continuing to pump its way up. It's absolutely insane what the stock market is doing. It's on a rocket ship right now. There is no brakes on this rocket ship, and it just keeps going up because Fed goes burr, they keep printing all the money, and the money eventually ends up in the stock market. And now let's take a look at something outside the US. Everyone is like, yes, US is the best market, but have you ever considered an even better market? That is the Indian market. Look at that. It's 1900% returns. Absolutely insane. And look at this, the Chinese index, 32% only. Nifty 50 index in India, absolutely crushing it. All-time high, just like the US market. The Indian economy is also on rocket boosters. Let's take a look at Wix. So I've got some data to share with you guys. This might get a little complicated, so take a closer look at this. So the Wix speculation is really high, and people are taking their bets off the short side of Wix. They're rarely right, and Wix generally climbs lower when this happens. Whenever this signal was triggered, take a look at this, and whenever this happened, the returns on the short side of Wix is lower across the board in the following months. Something to keep in mind and something to understand as the S&P makes new all-time highs in the coming weeks. And let's head over to charts and see what's going on in the S&P 500. Last week on Friday's close, I told you that next week is going to be a bullish week. Just the way this candle closed, look at that. This was a clear resistance level. 563 was a clear resistance level, and the candle closed above that, showing a little bit more bullish momentum and another possibility of a green candle. We will take a look at this. The market on the S&P is pretty much flat, but it's looking a lot more bullish than bearish right now. We will take a look at the Qs, what's going on with the Qs. Again, pretty much similar story. Whatever the S&P does, the Qs is going to follow, but the Qs is very tech heavy, and the tech sector is not as strong. But the S&P is a lot more balanced. So we can see new all-time highs on the S&P, but we might not see new all-time highs on the Qs. The Qs, very simple. We gotta break this level, guys. We gotta break 485 on the Qs. If this happens, I can see all-time highs on the Qs. We will keep a close eye on the Qs. But what I want to see is what's going on with the IWM. Last week I told you that IWM is heading towards a choppy market. And what I mean by that is that IWM is probably going to do something like this. There's going to be a lot of chop in IWM in the next coming months. If it breaks the all-time highs, we can expect this thing to blow out, but as of now, this is just not happening. We will take a look at Bitcoin, what's going on with the crypto market. So crypto is touching a really interesting level. Look at that. I've got the 20-day moving average on the weekly. Crypto is trading above that. That's a really good sign. And if crypto sustains this level and it keeps trending higher, I can see crypto going even higher. The real blowout is going to happen at 72,500. 72,500 and this thing goes to the moon. And on the downside, it's going to be 53,000. If 53,000 gets taken out, this thing is absolutely going down. So let's take a look at Coinbase. What's going on with Coinbase? It's really interesting because it just had a bearish crossover right here. But Cash Booza, what is a bearish crossover now? I just don't understand. A bearish crossover is when the 50-period moving average crosses below the 200-period moving average, which is exactly what happened over here. Whenever this happens, we don't trade this stuff to the upside. We don't touch this. We wait for confirmations, and we don't want to hurt ourselves, because more than it hurts our wallets, it's going to do
emotional damage.
So don't trade it. Wait for confirmations. Not a financial advice, by the way. Nothing on this channel is financial advice. I just want to give you guys all the information, all the opportunity, and everything out there to make you guys as successful as possible. So we'll take a look at some other stuff here. The dollar index. I've been screaming on top of my lungs that the dollar index is a really good trade. We want the dollar index to break out the 101 level. We want a full candle closure above the 20-period moving average, something like this, and then a break above the 101.8 level. So step number one is break above the 20-period moving average, and step number two is break above this massive resistance zone that we have here. And if this happens, the dollar index is heading much higher. This is the Cash Booza trade of the day. Keep it, watch it, keep a very close eye on the US dollar. But if the US dollar breaks out, chances are that the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, is going to have a very hard time sustaining those all-time highs. So just be cautious on the equities. What's going on with Apple? So Apple rejected a very key level right here of $230 a share on Apple, and it's coming down a little bit. I want to see a little bit more pullback on Apple, maybe to the 220 level, and see how it interacts with the 20-period moving average. And if it holds, we will evaluate our choices again and see what it does next. Let's take a look at Tesla, everyone's favorite Tesla, pumping higher. I've told you guys that this thing has rocket boosters underneath now because it crossed the 20-period moving average, it crossed the 200-period moving average. It's a very healthy rally, and Tesla is up 5%. What an unbelievable performance by Tesla hodlers. It's so simple, guys. All you have to do is just follow a few rules. Make sure that the checklist goes like that. Number one is the 20-period moving average. Number two, it's trading above the 200-period moving average. Number three, it's making higher highs and higher lows. And that's pretty much it. You just have to watch these three things and it's all golden from that point. I gave you guys the trade over here, and ever since then it's been climbing up in a very healthy rally. And how much are you guys up on this, by the way? Let's take a look at that. You guys are up about 23%, and if you're trading options, you guys are making a hell lot of money on Tesla. Let's take a look at my favorite, the gold, absolutely pumping its way once again. I don't know how many updates this thing has had, but it's absolutely on a rocket ship, not stopping, no signs of reversals, no signs of weakness, just pumping and pumping and pumping. Hold it, keep it, don't sell it. Not a financial advice, but something from a technical perspective. It's not making any problems just yet. When it does make problems, I'm going to let you know that it's making some problems and it's time to trim the position. Right now, there is no problems, and just keep it, hold it in the portfolio and let those gains compound. That's all I had for you guys today. I hope you liked it, and I am not sure what these guys are going to do to me after this video, but hopefully it's not as bad as I'm thinking. I'll see you tomorrow with new market updates, and don't make losses.